Ryan Poles had a press conference today at the Combine that answered a ton of good questions and still left the big one out there about the quarterback one situation and the number one overall pick. And today, in this special Chicago Bears Talk Live episode, I am honored to have NFL Network's Adam Rank to join us. Oh, there he is. And we're going to break everything down. Adam, welcome to the show.
I got to be careful with the look down the hallway there. I'm great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you having me on, especially with a momentous occasion. The Bears have controlled the media over the last couple of weeks. It's interesting being out of the Super Bowl as well, like how much Bears talk was going on. And of course, holding the number one overall pick for the second consecutive year has also lend itself to more great opportunities and talk about the Bears.
How did you feel when it was confirmed that we were getting that number one overall pick? What was the first thought in your mind?
How good is Caleb Williams? Because I knew it was going to be the conversation. And honestly, it really started playing out to the point of like, oh, this is going to be a realistic thing because, you know, the Panthers were playing so poorly. They were firing people. That organization might be one of the worst in sports. Like it really is. And listen, I'm an Angels fan and a Bears fan. So I know terrible organization. No, I'm just teasing, but like the Panthers are one of the worst in the league. I saw some kid on the on one of the social media channels. I think it was Instagram, going through like the most poorly run teams, and he didn't have the Panthers on there. He had the Lions. I'm like, the Lions at least look competent now. The Panthers are just dog ass. And so when it came to fruition, because part of it is, and the whole thing that we're talking about right now with Caleb Williams and everything, if the Bears, the Bears finished with the 9th overall pick. If the Panthers finished with the 7th overall pick, we wouldn't even be talking about a quarterback. We would be talking about possibly moving up for a wide receiver or anything like that. So it's really interesting. Caleb Williams kind of skews the conversation. Like it makes it a lot different than what it would normally be. And so when it started lining up, number one for Caleb Williams, you're like, this is going to be a thing. Like this is going to be, and it's been worse than I thought. Like I thought it was going to be pretty bad. Somehow it's managed to be worse than I thought it was going to be. And I'm just ready for it to end at some point.
Well, it sounds like we got a little bit of that answer today about the end because Ryan Poles has no plan entering the overall. He literally came out and said he has no master plan right now, what he's doing with, Justin Fields or Caleb Williams, which I respected that he said that he's not going to leave Justin, out in the gray. He's going to keep him transparent about what's going on, which I thought that's just a classy move by the GM. But Adam, are you on the Caleb Williams train? Or are you sticking with Justin right now?
No, I'm a Justin Fields guy. I've been Justin Fields since pre-day one, well before he was even drafted by the Chicago Bears. My Instagram feed leading up to that draft was all about maybe like trying to manifest Justin Fields being the quarterback of the Chicago Bears. And if it's come to the point now where we don't think that Justin Fields is the guy, I think that was an organizational failure because everything, like they should have, once they realized that they could get Justin Fields, I know it would have been too late, but it's like you should have blown out Matt Nagy at that point or not brought in Andy Dalton, or at least if you're going to bring in Andy Dalton, just stick with Andy Dalton. Don't go into the temptation of doing whatever they did with Justin Fields. So I feel like I would still want to stick with him because I think that great teams and great organizations are built through the draft. And when you draft somebody like Caleb Williams, you're really giving up a lot of draft. Like I know that we're not moving up. We're not necessarily trading picks to get Caleb Williams, but we're giving up what would be potential draft capital. At least 3 first-round draft picks, probably a player. And, depending on how far you fell. Like I threw this one out like a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago. I know it was well before the Super Bowl. Like what if Atlanta came in and gave a proposal that was similar to what Carolina did, which I think Ryan Poles is kind of intimating. Like it needs to be like that, but more. 3 first-round picks and Kyle Pitts. And I know that Kyle Pitts, we got Cole Kmet. I get it. But he's a different kind of tight end than Cole Kmet. We would find a way to use Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts ain't blocking anybody. Let's just say that. He would be a very tall slot receiver. So if the Falcons came up and were like 3 first-round picks and Kyle Pitts, you'd be like, God, you're giving up a lot. hoping that Caleb Williams is better than Justin Fields. Now you also have to factor in the quarterback clock and all that stuff. That I don't care about as much, but you're giving up a lot. So by just sticking at number one and taking Caleb Williams, you're giving up a lot of draft capital, whether you realize that or not. So you better be damn sure about him.
I did the same thing. I think Atlanta, I mean, my thing is that I want Marvin Harrison Jr. I think everybody would like Marvin Harrison Jr. And going past 3, your chances of keeping him are pretty much slim to none.
Zero.
Literally zero.
The Cardinals are not passing on Marvin Harrison Jr.
No. And I don't think, honestly, I don't see the Cardinals, could you see the Cardinals maybe trying to move up to try to get Marvin Harrison Jr.? Or
well, who would they wouldn't be able to move up, because if the Bears flip-flopped with the Commanders and then they flip-flop with the Patriots would be moving up to draft a quarterback as well. So there's really no way. Yeah, there's really no way for the Cardinals to really usurp. The only thing that would be a thing would be if the Bears wanted to kind of go and do similar to what Houston did last year, and they draft Caleb Williams, and then they're like, you know what, let's try to get the Commanders' 2nd overall pick or the Patriots' 3rd overall pick and try to get Marvin Harrison Jr. as well. Kind of like soothe the feelings of like missing out or being done with Justin Fields. It's kind of like, okay, like we got these 2 guys. You were like, okay, I can get over that. It's kind of like if your parents aren't taking you to Knott's Berry Farm, but they're like, hey, we're going to go get ice cream, which is not quite the same, but still similar. You're like, okay, that's fair. So if they did something like that, but I don't think that, you got to be in front of the Cardinals if you want Marvin Harrison Jr.
So you would if you did go back, ironically, Panthers were 8 last year. Falcons are 8 this year. If you went back to all the way to 8, you are missing out on Marvin Harrison Jr. You're getting 3 first-round picks. You're getting Kyle Pitts. But I'm needing. And
I would think, it's funny. I think you'd have to give up more as well.
You would have to give up more. I need a second because I need to address
second this year as well.
Another position. Yeah, you need that. I would get a second next year. I mean, Poles said it himself today, is that he's evaluating the trade backs, and it has to improve the team significantly.
Yeah.
So I mean, he did that.
I think all of it will.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I don't think that he's been missing on his draft picks too much. I think that, everybody, every time I talk about the greatness of Ryan Poles, everybody wants to throw Chase Claypool. I'm like, if that's your only ammunition, if your whole thing is like one bad trade 2 years ago, then that's pretty good. I feel pretty good about that. Like, I don't think that any of the guys that they drafted last year, you can really give up on or anything like that. I think that you would have to go back. I know Valus hasn't quite lived up to being a 3rd round pick, but he's still got a little bit of potential. But again, like, these are like small instances, and every team has them, by the way. It's not like anybody's, without it. So I would just say that I trust him. And if he decides he wants a lot more picks, I think there's 3 outcomes that can happen here. And I think 2 of them are great.
I agree. I mean, there's so much you can do, and everyone within the top 15 is going to be calling. I mean, here's a question for you, Adam. And we just got this from Mark. It's in regards to Justin Fields, because Fields might get dealted. There's a possibility. Do you think that Pittsburgh would get far into the playoffs next year if we dealt him to Fields? And then I have a follow-up question off that one based off Mark's question.
No, I would think so. I think did Pittsburgh make the playoffs this year? Like, they were, right? They played the Ravens, they were in the wild card. So they're already a playoff team. And that's similar to, I think that, going to an organization that has a lot of great structure, as the Steelers have shown over the years, I think that Justin Fields would do very well. I'm a big believer in Mike Tomlin. I know some Steelers fans are not always completely sold on him, but I really do believe that the Steelers have the infrastructure in place to be a great landing spot for Justin Fields. So they would continue to be a playoff team. I think that it would continue to grow, and I think it'll be a great spot for him, because I want Justin, regardless of where he's playing, to be successful next season. And Pittsburgh gives me an opportunity to sort of back the Steelers a little bit and not have to worry. Not like you're rooting for an NFC team. Like, if he was in Atlanta, you'd be like, it's a little bit different. You're like, I don't really want the Falcons to do well. But if it's Pittsburgh, you're like, okay, that's fine. If it's, I don't know what other AFC team would fit the bill, but regardless, Tennessee or somebody like that, like, okay, yeah, I could root for them and get down with that. So I would think it would be, I think Pittsburgh would be very good. I think that would be a pretty good opportunity. And when there's teams that like your quarterback, you're like, well, what are we missing? What are we not doing right that makes him attractive to other teams, but not to us?
What would you be? Do you think that I've seen trades float around that's a second and the fourth from Pittsburgh straight up for Field? I've seen the number 20 get thrown out there for Field. Do you think 20 is impossible? Like, is it a true possibility, or do you see a different pick from Pittsburgh happening if we dealt Justin there?
Yeah, I don't think anything's impossible. You want to think that, the Pittsburgh used a similar type pick on Kenny Pickett a couple of seasons ago, which means, they do value the quarterback position. And I think the Steelers have enough faith in their own talent evaluations to be able to find players at different spots, especially in the second, third, and fourth rounds, even the fifth round. They've had great success later in the draft over the years. So I don't think they fear giving up a number one pick. I just don't know who would be motivated, like why they would have to give up a first round pick when there's, especially, if Denver ends up cutting Russell Wilson and the Steelers want to make a go at Russell Wilson, you also have some competition there. If Kirk Cousins becomes a free agent, there's also some competition there. So you've got to be concerned that there are some other opportunities for teams to get quarterbacks if you put too high of a price on Justin Fields.
And actually, as we're talking, Adam, there was new rumors that just emerged. The Falcons are emerging as the number one trade option for Justin Fields and have contacted the Bears about Justin Fields, according to NBC Sports Chicago.
Interesting.
Just came out about 15 minutes ago. So, and I'm looking at the chat too. Thanks guys for putting that out there, because I looked it up as you were explaining, Adam. And, like we were saying, Atlanta's a big possibility. He's from Atlanta and Atlanta likes him a lot. They definitely chatted. I always look to see how players react after games. And after that Bears Falcons game, I kind of decided to watch Fields where he went to. And first thing he did was he went over to Drake London and, chatted. And then Fields came out on the St. Brown podcast and was like, yeah, no, I know him. Like, we talked after the game. So it sounds like there's mutual interest there. But from Atlanta, we're obviously not going to get the number 8 pick straight up for Justin.
No.
But we could get a second for him.
Yeah, and you get a second round. I hope it would be. I wish we could find a way to get Kyle Pitts in here. But at the same time, regardless, if Justin Fields did go to Atlanta and you look at the options that they have on that team, with Bijan Robinson, Drake London, if Kyle Pitts stays, like they've got a really nice roster as well. And for Justin, he really takes advantage of his number one wide receiver and his pass catching tight end, although Cole Kmet blocks, which makes him a little bit different than Kyle Pitts. And with having Robinson, it's a very similar situation to what he's got going on with the Chicago Bears. So it would be a pretty good landing spot for him. We all know that he's from Georgia and everything like that. So it would be. And when you hear Ryan Poles talk about like, hey, we want to do right by him. We want to put him in a pretty good spot, a position for him to succeed, a place that perhaps he would want to go. We also have Raheem Morris today talking about like, hey, we kind of want an Atlanta guy, like a guy who fits Atlanta. And I feel like he knew what he was saying when he said that too, because he kind of like didn't walk it back, but at the same time, like acknowledged what he was saying. So I do believe that, there would be a lot of interest there. Again, we're probably not going to get the number 8 pick for Justin Fields, and that's okay, but there's going to be something creative there. So I would be, again, put the trust in Ryan Poles.
And you hit the nail on the head. I want him to go somewhere and succeed. I will be a Justin Fields fan no matter where he goes. I think that he was put in a very interesting situation with the Chicago Bears. Potentially 3 play callers in 4 years is never ideal. Cutler did it. And, yes, they made the NFC Championship one time, but Fields he's special. I hate to see him go, but it is what it is at the end of the day. And Poles' decision. I don't know. Do you think it's really possible that they are going to get rid of him? Like, where is your gauge right now on it?
I really wish I knew. There was one thing though, and I talked about this in my podcast today, where Ryan Poles was in an interview with Stacey Dales talking about the artist versus the surgeon. And I was like, this is a very interesting way to put this, because when you think of the quarterbacks, when you think of Justin Fields, I would say that he would be labeled the artiste. Patrick Mahomes would be labeled the surgeon. And is Caleb Williams considered a surgeon? And then, I missed this. I didn't have this on my show, but I did see Matt Eberflus when he was talking today too. He was talking about the fourth quarter stuff being able to win in the fourth quarter is a huge thing for him. And so I look at, I mean, last year, Justin Fields was able to rally the team, brought him back against when they lost the lead against the Minnesota Vikings, was able to drive them down for the winning field goal. The big game against the Washington Commanders, where we were never down, and it's not like we were ever out of it, but there was an opportunity for Washington to crawl back into it, and they weren't able to do it. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things was Justin made that throw to DJ Moore, who takes it to the house and puts the game away. So you got those two instances. Like, this is pretty good. This is like Justin Fields putting games away. Then we also have the 3 games where we had a 95% chance of winning all 3 of those, and we blew it, and mistakes were made all around. And so when Matt Eberflus was talking about how much he puts into a quarterback winning in the fourth quarter, again, like I'm trying not to read too much into this. And the truth of it is like, I think whomever you support, and for me, actually, it's the Chicago Bears. That's the team that's who I support the most. As a Justin Fields person, and maybe this is because I'm more pessimistic or whatever, but I'm like, they're talking about Caleb Williams. Like I know it doesn't seem that way. The Caleb Williams people certainly feel that way. The Justin Fields people are like, no, that's not what they're saying. Even as a Justin Fields person, I'm like, they're sort of talking about Caleb Williams. Like, is he the surgeon? Like, this is, when Ryan Poles is talking about the evaluation process. And then, he had even said in that Stacey Dales interview, talking about like, we love the tape of Patrick Mahomes, but it wasn't until we talked to him that we realized that he was something special. And obviously that's going to be going on right now where they're talking to Caleb Williams. And, there's a big part of me that fears. And again, like I always fear the worst. We were talking about golf before we came on here, and I always have that mentality of like, good Lord, don't hit it into the water as I'm hitting it right into the water. So I always have that. I always fight that battle. So even as a Justin Fields, I'm like, God, are they not? Like I listened to him talking to Stacey Dales today and was like, poop, he's gone. Like they're going Caleb. It's just, I don't know. Like I think that, and I don't believe in the thing about like, we love, like, he wants his own quarterback or anything like that. Like, I don't think that stuff kind of, if he was good, like if the Chiefs hired a new offensive or a new general manager, would there be, would you think that the new general manager would be like, I need my own quarterback. Somebody else drafted Patrick Mahomes. I can't have like, no, none of that. That's all nonsense.
Yeah.
But I do. And what are the character issues with Caleb Williams that is not, that you know of, that you personally, like, no, I was at the Super Bowl. I was talking to some guy. I was on the tram from Mandalay Bay to Excalibur. And the guy's like, yeah, what about Caleb Williams' character? I'm like, what are his character issues?
Yeah.
Are you a USC fan? Are you a big CF, like a college football person? Like somebody has created this narrative that Caleb Williams has character issues. Nobody I know connected with the USC program has ever told me such a thing. And I you know what? I've been meaning to do this. I know a guy who is who could not be more entrenched into the USC program. And it's not Matt Leinart, although Matt Leinart, I should try to get Matt Leinart on my show. So I'm thinking out loud. I got to go have lunch with this guy though, because I want to find out. I want to know. I want to get the scoop and find out. I don't know. I don't think there's character issues. Like I think that's, and we don't know. Like you don't know. We don't know the man. He doesn't have character issues. Like it's.
I mean, I've never. I mean, like
remember too. Like I'm sorry. I mean to cut you off. No. I mean to. Please, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I don't mean to cut you off. I hate when people say that. Like, hey, I don't mean to interrupt. I'm like, you certainly do, because you don't hate it because you're doing it. If you truly hated to interrupt, you wouldn't interrupt. Oh, I hate to bother you. Then why are you doing it? You clearly don't hate it.
Sorry.
I was done, but then I thought of something new. That's why I say I mean to interrupt. Remember Dan Orlovsky started Remember, he was like, "Oh, I've heard Justin Fields is a last guy in, first guy out," which was total BS. And he's backtracked it over the years. But Orlovsky was out there pooping on Justin Fields before, though it's just like, dude, like you work for a major network. Unless you know for sure, you should not be saying that. And I think it's a very similar instance here with Caleb. They tried to do it to Justin. Now they're trying to do it with Caleb. Ryan Poles is going to get to the bottom of this. And if there is a problem with Caleb Williams, he will fall in the draft. We saw it happen last year with Jalen Carter. That was legitimate. Like when the Lions and the Eagles, not the Eagles, when the Seahawks and the Lions passed on Jalen Carter, you're like, okay, there must be something there. There must be something to this. So if Ryan Poles decides he doesn't want, it's not fair because we have Justin Fields still. If the Bears drafted Drake May over Caleb Williams, I think that would be a red flag. But I'm not going to sit here and speculate on any perceived character issues because that's up to Ryan Poles, and I trust his judgment.
Well, you got people agreeing with you. Mark threw that out right there. I agree. Poles will find any issues. And this is the time to find it out. It's the combine. He's going to have his pro day. He's going to have his interviews. One question for you, Adam, and this is for the chat too. And first of all, just one quick one. Do you think the Bears are going to make the playoffs this year?
Yes. Always.
Yeah,
obviously they're going to make the playoff. Listen, they had 7 wins this year. They had those 3 games. Where's my hand? There we go. 3 games where they had a 90% chance of winning. The Denver game, was it Denver, Detroit, and Cleveland?
Yep.
What a swept the Lions, by the way. Think about that. Should have swept the Lions, like dominated the Lions at home, and then should have won at Ford Field. Like, why not? Why not the Bears? That's 3 wins they should have had. They would have been a 10-win team. They could have lost to Green Bay in week 18, and it wouldn't have mattered because we were going to the playoffs anyways. That's why I don't get the joy. That's why I'm still like, I don't know. And this is the thing too. Like when people talk narratives or team, I feel like there's such an agenda. Like for the longest time, like Jordan Love, doesn't look great. And then he has a couple of decent games and people are like, no, this guy's the best. He's a Hall of Famer already. And then sure enough, I had even said, like, this guy gets away with so much BS, like throwing off his back foot and trying to be too cute all the time. Like it's going to get him. And it certainly did in the playoffs against the 49ers. But everybody's like, oh, this is such a young team. I'm like, they overachieved. They got on a roll. I don't think they're very good. I would love to see Jordan Love try to back that up for another season. But whatever, we'll find out. So I do believe that the Bears are going to make the playoffs.
Well, let's go back to this quarterback situation because this is one that I saw floated out there. And I honestly, I think this idea is great if we do truly move on from Justin Fields. So in the situation, you trade Fields to Atlanta or Pittsburgh, you get a 2nd and a 4th. So now you have your 2nd pick, you have another 4th pick. You trade back the number 1 pick to 2 with the Washington Commanders, get another, first, a couple other different picks, and you take Drake May. Is there like a significant difference between Willie? I already see your head shaking your head. No,
I'm out.
But like, what difference is?
I'm 100% out. No, I'm done. No, the only conversation for me is it's got to be Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is the only one that it's either Caleb or Justin. And I know a lot of people are floating it out like it could be, and I've seen that. Trade Justin, move down 3, and take Jaden Daniels. I'm like, no, like there's a Drake May in every draft. Like, what about Will Levis last year? Like, it's the same. Like Will Levis, like, okay, fine. There's always a generic white quarterback, the Madden creative player. There'll be one next year. I haven't even looked yet. There will be one. There will be a Jaden Daniels next year. There will be maybe not a Michael Phoenix. JJ McCarthy, like these guys happen every year. And if you're of the mind of like, you don't want Caleb Williams, which is fine, then why not stick with Justin? There's no point in trading Justin then. Why would you try? Like it's either Caleb Williams is like a generational talent that you have to have. Otherwise, we have, again, too many holes to be like screwing around with this. Like, let's just, if you're going to move down, stick with Justin Fields, give him one more year with Shane Waldron, with Marvin Harrison Jr. and those guys. Like, you can still go out there and just, you can let him go next year. Like, if you don't want to, don't pick up his 5th-year option, roll the dice. But I would not, I know, because like you can get a Drake May next season. And if you move down once or twice, you're going to get a 1st-round pick next year to give yourself another 2 first-round picks for the following season. Go through this again. There will be a Drake May next year. Drake May is not a needle mover in the sense of you have to have him.
Do you think that the Bears can get a 1st round next year from either the Patriots or Commanders for just moving back 1 spot or 2
You would
spots?
have to. Absolutely. Because the Bears have no reason. Because like, if Washington wants to take some other quarterback, but I think Washington, they could be into it. But no, I would think you'd have to give up a 1st-round pick, because you've seen it too. You've seen like when the Washington squad had to do it to get RG3 the year of the Andrew Luck trade. Like you give up picks. Like even last year, like nobody thought that Bryce Young was going to be this great prospect, to the point of, I remember Packers fans in particular being like, oh, watch the Bears not even get anything. Watch nobody move up. Like somebody was moving up for the quarterback. And next year, there'll be a quarterback. I don't know. I'm too lazy to look, but I'm sure there's already a quarterback slated for next year's draft. Who is it? Like somebody, the kid from Texas and whomever. There will be a quarterback that we prop up as the best quarterback in that draft. It's very rare that we don't have one. I know that when the Steelers drafted Kenny Pickett, there was nobody to take. But at the same time, like, I don't know, like you still have these guys every year. Or even if you want to take a 4th rounder, like if somebody falls, like I could see Penix falling. I know people are like the variance on him is like, he's a top 10 pick. He's a 2nd round. Like nobody knows. So I'd rather just no. If you want to move on from Justin Fields, it has to be for Caleb Williams. Otherwise, I'm not entered. And I know that Ryan Poles is doing his due diligence and looking at these other guys. I just wouldn't be able to stomach it myself if it wasn't Caleb Williams.
Well, I think it's a great breakdown. And Adam, I just want to give a little shout out to the chat, because everyone's asking some great questions. We also have over 250 people in here right now.
Stop it.
Yeah, we got a good group in
here. Have you subscribed to my podcast as well? We do this every week as well. Like I love as many Bears content and creators as possible. I don't think that it should be, I don't look at it as competition or anything like that. I just think it's like going to see a great comedy show. You don't get upset when there's like 8 headliners on one bill at the Comedy Store. It's like, no, this is a great night. And I feel like the Bears especially have so many great content creators. So it's good to always go out there and explore, listen to some new people, go check out some new ones. If you haven't listened to some of these other Bears podcasts, go find one, especially this week where there's so much stuff going on. Obviously for everybody who's here, you know about this one. You got me with the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank. You got the Tape Never Lies Network, CHGO. I know there's some that I'm forgetting. I apologize, but there's a bunch of great content out there about the Chicago Bears. So I would implore everybody to go check it all out.
Well, we also have
Bear Down Cuz, Three Kings,
we got some Bears Country Productions in here.
Adam
Mason.
Yes.
Adam Mason's been killing it lately. Like shout out to him. I watch every one of his videos, and it's tough because there's so many people. You got the Windy City Breeze. Overall, the Windy City Productions, ton of guys out there. So everyone knows, go make sure you subscribe, everybody. It helps us grow, not only as creators, but we bring you more Bears content. So I'm with you, Adam. It's not a competition, just having fun. I've never understood the whole envy competition mentality.
There's always because I grew up in doing a lot of stand-up, is you get jealous people who are like, not in the sense, like, there's some sense of like, there's nothing funnier than watching a comic bomb. Like it is funny, like, because sometimes it's just funny and you're just like rolling, like, okay, he's not like, especially when somebody's funny, but they're not having a good night or the crowd doesn't like them. And it's just kind of amusing. My friend Tom Connolly was like that. Like he was such a prick about like, especially like if I would go out there and not do well. But he knows, like, he's like, oh, you're funny. And like, he's the only, now he's like the only one that I can hear laughing because he's the only one laughing because it's going so horribly. But I do hate the jealousy aspect of like, I can't be happy for somebody. Like, somebody else being successful is not taking away from you being successful, but it makes the experience better. And I always say that too. Like if you go to, especially like go to a comedy show or something like that, or a venue that has a lot of music playing, if you have 6 terrible bands and you're a good band, like it's not advantageous to you. Like, congratulations, you're the best of these terrible bands, but like people are not going to go on to want to see these shows if everybody else is terrible. Similarly, like people will just never want to be watching any sort of Bear stuff if all of this stuff is awful. So we can all get along and we've all got our point of view. And I think that it's great to have as many opportunities. And I know there's going to be some people who don't care for me, which is fine. And they might enjoy this instead, which is like, cool. Like you're not offending me. I'm still going to keep doing what I'm doing. Just like, but just, yeah, you want to be encouraging and as positive as possible.
And I will say, Adam, I've had now 2 comments from 2 separate people asking if we're related. We are not related in any way. And they were like, these guys look alike. So, it is what it is. It's a little
grow a beard. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
I would be, oh, you're a striking individual. So I'm flattered to be put in that kind of company.
And Adam, I appreciate that. That was very, an honor to hear that. But also we got Grant Brown from the UK.
Grant Brown.
One of our very loyal followers. He tunes in all the time. Just wanted to throw him up there. Yes, Grant, we see your comments. We appreciate you tuning in. And everyone, please make sure you throw your comments in here. We got Adam for 15 more minutes. He's a busy guy, but we got him for a little bit longer. So
I got the Lightning, my Lightning soccer team. There's the champions over there. So we won the title in the fall. We took top of the table. We swept our tournament. We got to the areas and it didn't go as quite as well. We had some injuries. We had one of our top players was in Korea. And so, but like, this is all I cared about because I like the Premier League. I'm like, just take top of the table. Then they throw on a turn. I'm like, why do we have a tournament? Like we just won. We just proved that we're the best team. Then we went to that tournament and we shut everybody. We didn't even allow a goal in that tournament. And then we went again. Once we went to the areas or sectionals or whatever it was, it got away from us. So it is what it is. But now we've got a new season. I have the girls out there. We lost one of our top players because she's on an all-star team, but we picked up a goalie. And I was telling them the other night, I go, listen, everybody's going to look at the Red Lightning. They're going to put a target on our back. So we got to go out there and defend it. I just want them to play. I just want them to have fun and play hard. They're 10U for anybody who's curious. Like they're 10U. Like we just want to have fun. We're goofballs and it's just so enjoyable.
You sounded like a GM right there. You're picking up players,
picking up players. Yeah, we had to do it. Yeah. Well, I knew I was losing. I wanted to I thought I was losing one of my goalies because she hadn't signed up. So I went and poached another one because there was a coach who was actually coaching the All-Stars who actually took, he took my girl Estella, not my daughter, but one of our players. Kept her on the All-Star. I'm like, I shouldn't have nominated her for All-Stars because now I'm like, oh, I gave her a taste. No, I'm just kidding. You want these kids to succeed and go out and do all that stuff. But yeah, there was some wrangling. There was some backdoor deals and, talking to some parents and trying to woo some people. And it was crazy, but you just want everybody to have fun and just get along and have a nice time.
When's the team going to be on the Sick podcast after they win the championship for their overall interview?
You know what? We did that with, they're on the NFL Network. Their picture was on there, that the photo, some of the photos, and I had the trophy and all that stuff. So they all got a kick out of it. And their teacher, our team mom is also a teacher and she showed it to her class and all these girls come up and they're like, oh my God. She's like, we saw you talking about the team. And I'm like, yeah. And you were crying. I'm like, I might've cried a little bit, but it's, I don't know. I was very proud of them. And it's one of the things that I talk to people about the most now outside of the Bears and maybe golf, but I think youth soccer is what I talk about the most.
Hey, you know what? You got passion for it. Golf, football, and youth soccer. It is what it is, especially and you're working your way up into the coaching reins, it sounds like. So
yeah, I'm having fun. I don't even know. I'm like Ted Lasso. Like I didn't even know. Like I don't know. I grew up playing basketball, and out here in California where I grew up, after we moved from Chicago, from Hoffman Estates, or Schaumburg. I don't know. Nobody can verify this for this. I can't be verified anymore. But yeah, out here in California, soccer and basketball ran concurrently. And so actually I never really played soccer all that much. I just played hoops. So this has been a brand new experience for me over the last number of years. Yeah, this is my third season of doing it for my daughter. My boys team, this is his first year in this is my boys' first team this season.
That's awesome. Hey, you learn something new all the time as life goes on, right? And we're in this weird world of the Bears right now, and what they're going to do. We still don't know what the Bears are going to do. There's no plan. If you're tuned in thinking that there's going to be a plan, we don't have the plan. We just like to bring predictions and what's going on. Speaking of that, McB, always a good follower for us. Do you think we should take JPJ from Oregon in the first round, or should we take a veteran safe center in free agency?
I kind of like the idea of the veteran center if it's the right one. I don't want to do the whole thing like we tried to make Lucas Patrick into a center type of situation. If there was somebody who's like a I know it's not Frank Ragnow, but somebody like that who like, oh, this guy is automatically great. I don't think that there's going to be any who hit the open market. I know that I think it was a guy from the Rams. He might do it, but at the same time, if you get somebody like JPJ and you have him either with Justin Fields or with your first-time quarterback and they kind of grow up together, I think there's something special about that. Mark Stepnoski was drafted in the draft of, it wasn't Aikman's year. It was the year they drafted Emmitt Smith. It was that same draft, I think, because I think they went Emmitt Smith, Daryl Johnston, and Mark Stepnoski, if I'm remembering this correctly. And so I think there's something about a quarterback and a center growing together, which I think could be pretty special. And again, I don't think that you would use the number 9 overall pick on him, but somebody you could move on or move down for a little bit and pick up some extra capital. But yeah, I think that center, maybe even more than wide receiver, is probably a bigger need for me, especially in the draft.
Yeah, I'm a big Lloyd Cushenberry guy from Denver. If he doesn't get
that's a good one.
A lot of people, I like this comment right here, still go out and get JBJ, but bring in the Denver center to mentor him. We still have Doug Kramer on the roster. Which, unfortunately he's been injured, but what are you going to do? The injuries happen in the sport. I like Lloyd Cushenberry though. The dude's never injured, not a penalty machine, young at 26, 6'4", 310. Fast, good Denver offense. I mean, I think
is he getting out of Denver though? I can't imagine Denver getting out. I don't know what Denver's doing.
They could tag him, but they don't have the cap to extend him because he's projected 14.5 a year right now. And obviously the Bears can do that. I would love that. But that's my personal guy. There's a lot of guys. Who's that Miami center? Williams, I think his last name's Williams. Yeah, I know that he's a popular target too. But I've been, everyone that's been following for a while, all my free agency mock drafts, Cushenberry is my number one guy.
Yeah.
So valuable. So
I think, I mean, if he hits the streets, because I'm putting together a piece for NFL.com and because I'm going back and forth with the editors and we were just having that conversation. Like, how does he leave? Like, he's so good for all the reasons that you're talking about. Like, it just doesn't seem fathomable that he could be on the way out, but stranger things have happened.
Denver's a mess.
That's a really interesting situation. And it's almost to the point. Here's the thing with Denver. And this is one of the things that I'm trying to go over. And I think this is a good exercise. Just sit here and talk ball for a second. It's like, okay, you got to pay people at some point. And I said this about Jaylon Johnson today. And it's one of the things that through all this conversation about the quarterback position today at the combine, we're kind of glossing over the fact that Ryan Poles also mentioned that Jaylon Johnson is going to get extended, and they don't want to use the tag or anything like that. They just want to extend him. There comes a point where you have to pay players. You just have to do it. Like, it's not one of these things like, let's reset the clock here. Let's reset. No, eventually you got to pay players. Minnesota's going through this as well, but I think Minnesota's in a different spot of like, how much money you're going to pay Justin Jefferson if you don't have Kirk Cousins or, Russell Wilson or somebody like that. Like it's sort of like the Maserati in the trailer park type of situation. Like, what are we doing here? Like especially for as much capital as you would get back for Justin Jefferson. Like, I think that it makes a lot of sense for them to move on, considering how long it's going to take them to get back to being competitive again, especially if Kirk Cousins leaves. Denver's in a very similar situation, but I still would want to pay a center, especially if you're going to draft a quarterback. Like if Denver's in the mix for a quarterback, a young quarterback, like they're going to go in there, they're going to draft one of these guys, Michael Penix or anybody like that, whomever it is. You got to have the center there. Like that seems to be even more so than the wide receiver.
Yep.
When you've got wide receivers, obviously in Denver, who can be pretty good. I would want the center. Like I would not want to keep him going. So in this piece, as I'm debating this now in my head, I'm going to say that he should leave to Chicago, but that's the only reason. Otherwise, like don't go to Kansas City or whatever. And I don't know if that's a perfect example, but no. Chicago, fine. But otherwise, like Denver's got to hold on to him. Although he's probably wants out too, because he knows like he's in a spot too where it's like, why do I want to play for this organization? Like, I don't know how much confidence I have in Denver being competitive. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out.
I mean, we have 82 million now, 82 million and change, with the new cap, which I think is fantastic. And we can bring him in. And like going back to Jaylon Johnson real quick, I didn't want to cut you off, but I love that polls came out and said, we want a long-term deal because in my opinion, that comes out saying we're investing in our players are investing in us by their play. We want them to be known because you see the drama all the time with the franchise tag and no good comes out of it. And I think Jaylon Johnson's a good community guy. He's a great locker room guy. He's only 24 years old too.
Right.
I was mind blown when I was like, this guy plays like he's been in the league forever. When we drafted him out of Utah, he was 20.
Yeah.
So
young kid coming off an injury. Should have been a first rounder if he had not been injured. So we got away with one there, getting him where we did. Because that was one of the years too. We didn't have a lot of picks. And because I think it might've been after the Mitch Trubisky trade, I'm sure of it. It really was a godsend to get him. So we need to hang on to him for sure.
Yeah. I like him. Is there anyone else, Adam? I know we only got 2 minutes here left with you. You got 2 minutes or?
Yeah, I can do it.
For in regards to players that you want to keep, I mean, there's a ton of guys on 1-year contracts, but is there anyone from a depth piece that you want the Bears to for sure keep this upcoming season?
Well, I think we're getting close to getting rid of all the Ryan Pace guys. And I think that Jaylon Johnson's going to be the last one. And it's unfortunate too, depending on the quarterback situation, because I would really love to know what happened with Darnell Mooney, why he wasn't a bigger factor in this offense. Was it the player? Was it the quarterback? Talking about the St. Brown podcast, as you were earlier, I remember Amon-Ra kind of insinuating like, what happened to Darnell Mooney? And I'm like, I would like to know that too. Like it feels very interesting that, and I know that some people have put down breakdowns of like, yeah, like the number one receiver gets targeted way more, but I didn't really I don't know. I just felt like that was an opportunity missed. And I know that you could just consider Cole Kmet to be like the number 2 pass catcher. So there it is. And Darnell Mooney was 3rd on the list and he probably figured out where he probably landed where he lands. So I'm interested to see where he goes. I think for anybody, I'm a huge fan of Darnell Mooney. I hope he ends up with a team like the Kansas City Chiefs where he can go out there and get an opportunity to chase a ring or do something like that. I think he really deserves that chance. So I'm looking forward to see where he goes. It's disappointing to see what happened with Eddie Jackson. When you talk about players who, somebody who we were fortunate to get, we probably shouldn't have gotten. And because he got the injury in what was one of the bowl games for Alabama, he fell to the 4th round. And I always felt that we were fortunate to have him. So I'm looking forward to see what he's going to do in another uniform. I always look at some of these guys and I'm like, there's no way they would go to some rival. Actually, the only one I care about, like, just don't go to Green Bay. But I'm like, is Eddie Jackson going to end up going to Green? I don't know if that would fit.
Amos.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff, like him and Peppers. Like Peppers wasn't really truly a Bear, so it doesn't bother me as much. But yeah, I'm curious to see what happens. But as long as we get a Jaylon Johnson extended, I think that to me is the only one that I'm really worried about right now. Because I've already kind of just come to grips with Darnell Mooney not being around, but I really do hope that we get this Jaylon Johnson thing figured out.
Me too. And Adam, I know we're at 45 minutes. We have 275 people in the chat right now.
Thank you so much for stopping by, everybody.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone for stopping by. I want to thank you. And obviously, everyone, please hit the like button on this video. Make sure you go into the link in the description to go to check out Adam's podcast. Make sure you give him a subscribe as well. Great content over there. And Adam, can't thank you enough for coming on, man. This was a ton of fun. And hopefully after the draft, we'll get it done again. And we can actually have some answers for everybody next time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this puzzle play out. As much as we don't want to keep Justin Fields in the gray, I know the fans want to get some closure or figure out what's going on. But you know what? It's not going to be long now. By June, we'll know. So let's enjoy the journey and be nice to each other. And it's not that serious.
Well, be nice to each other, and Bears versus, Caleb Williams versus Justin Fields. It doesn't go around. But
right.
I appreciate you put it in the universe because
yeah,
hopefully some things will change. But Adam, thanks for coming on, man. Ton of fun, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you. Sounds good. And thanks again to everybody for participating. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And thank you for tuning in this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Rody, joined alongside NFL Network's Adam Rank, and we'll see you guys next time.